Thank you very much. Okay, so the book is a 276-page book in 3 parts. And the part 1 is on why execution is needed. And that entails the gap nobody knows, the execution difference. And then the part 2 is on the building blocks of execution. Building block 1, the leader's 7 essential behaviors. Building block 2, creating the framework for cultural change. And the building block 3 is the job no leader should delegate, having the right people in the right place. And then the part 3 of the book is on the 3 core processes of execution: the people process, the strategy process, and then there's a chapter on how to conduct a strategy review, and then the operations process. And it concludes with a letter to a new leader by the writer. So I'll do my best the next 25 to 30 minutes to review this 276-page book. So we start with the part 1, why execution is needed, the gap. And so Larry and Ram started this book by talking about this CEO, his name is Joe, and he was sitting in his office late one evening. He was tired, he was drained, he was frustrated, and he was talking to a visitor, trying to explain why his strategy failed to be executed, although he didn't really have a clue why that happened. So he said to his visitor, he said, I brought together people from all the divisions under me. We had off-site meetings, we did our benchmarking, we had the metrics. McKinsey also assisted us. And so we came up with this good document on our strategy. And the market was good, so we were highly expectant. He said, I gave them stretch goals to work with. I mean, I empowered them. I gave them the freedom to do whatever they needed to do. And there was so much energy and everybody was excited. Then he said, this is the end of it. True life story. He said, this was frustrated, and it was like, I've lost credibility with Wall Street. I've lost credibility with the board, and the board might even fire me. And of course, several weeks after, the board actually fired him. And so he didn't have a clue. Why on earth would that strategy fail? I mean, we put everything in. We have the best people. Why would they fail? The gap that he didn't know was execution. The strategy failed because they failed to execute. Now, the gap between promises and results is widespread and clear. The gap nobody knows is the gap between what a company's leaders want to achieve and the ability of the organization to achieve it. No company can deliver on its commitments or adapt well to change unless all leaders practice the discipline of execution at all levels. Now, this is so, so important. Now, he talked about that. So many organizations, good organizations, I mean, he mentioned some that were not able to execute their strategies. He talked about Compaq, AT&T, and so on and so forth. So I said, these are good companies. They are MDs, they are smart. The CEOs, they are smart. I mean, they have talented people. They have inspiring vision. They have the best consultants working with them. So how come they fail to execute their strategies? And once they announce the shortfall, what happens are the investors, they begin to dump their stocks. I mean, they lose market value. I mean, their managers and their employees, they become demoralized. And before long, the board is forced to dump the CEOs. And when strategy fails to be executed, we tend to say that, oh, maybe the strategy was wrong. But that's not always the case. The problem is that the strategy, they failed to execute the strategy, not that the strategy was wrong. I was taking figures, the numbers online, and I saw that they said 10% of most organizations manage to execute 2/3 of their strategy, just 10%. And they said 34% are able to execute between 50 and 67% of their strategy, while a whooping 54% are able to execute below 50% of their strategic objectives. And so with this, we see that strategic execution is more important than strategic formulation. We spend a lot of time brainstorming, having the sessions, but strategy is more important than strategic formulation. And, a lot of times we come with those big ideas, we brainstorm on the big ideas, but if we cannot translate those big ideas into actionable steps, then it achieves nothing. And so we need to begin to put execution as part of our strategy and part of our goals, because it's actually the missing link between aspirations and the results that you get. So what exactly is execution? I mean, I was talking with a group of people and asking them what is execution, and began to say, okay, the art of getting things done and so on and so forth. And then he asked them, so how do you get things done? And everybody went silent. So, execution. Everybody knows that execution is for you to be able to put in mind in understanding execution. The first is execution is a discipline and integral to strategy. It's a core element of an organization's culture. And so we look at execution as a discipline, still on the part 1 of the book. Execution is a systemic process that involves rigorous discussion on hows and whats. I mean, there must be robust dialogue. If there's no robust dialogue, you cannot execute, because the start with the document will be wrong, and then your plans will go awry. So rigorous discussion on the house, there must be, and the words, we must dialogue on what exactly we want to do, how we are going to do it, and what is going to be done. And then there must be questioning. When you're having all the strategy sessions, there must be questioning, there must be debate. I mean, we must come up with realistic solutions. And then commitment to specific action plans. When you have a strategy session, everybody must leave with specific commitments on what to do and when to do it and how to do it. We must tenaciously follow through. You have to follow through to make sure that the plans that you have made are still on track. Because if you don't follow through, you might just find out that the plans are not on track. Ensuring accountability, we must ensure accountability. That's one of the processes of execution. Now, who is accountable for what? Who is going to do this? I mean, nobody leaves meeting without being sure of what the expectations from them are. They're making assumptions about business environments. You have to make assumptions, but these assumptions have to be discussed robustly so that you are sure that you are making the right assumptions. Linking strategy to operations and people who will implement it. I mean, your strategy must not be in silos, it must be linked to operations and to the people who are going to implement it. Then linking rewards to outcomes. Are we sure we are rewarding the performance? We must ensure that we are rewarding the performance. Mechanism for changing assumptions as the environment changes. What are the plans? Anything can change in the environment. The external environment can change, government policy can change. What are the mechanisms for us to change things and turn things around when the environment changes? Are we going to be having quarterly strategic review, or what is the plan? Then assessing organizations' capabilities and upgrading the company's capabilities to meet the challenges of an ambitious strategy. Yes, the strategy might be ambitious, looking good. Then we need to assess our organization. Do we have enough human resources, financial resources, material resources? And if you don't have enough, what are we going to do about it? When are we going to have to buy it? What is the source? You know, all these things, we have to put them into mind and into practice for us to be able to execute. Now, still talking about the gap, and then the second major thing we need to bear in mind concerning execution. Execution is the major job of the business leader. An organization can execute only if the leader's heart and soul are immersed in the company. The leader has to be engaged personally and deeply in the business. I mean, Larry talks about the fact that when the organization is running well, he spends about 20% of his time in the people process. But if he's trying to rebuild an organization, then he spends about 40% of his time on the people process. I mean, he goes to the plants and manufacturing plants that are under him. He goes there physically, and he relates with the manager in charge of the plants. Maybe he can sit down with him and have a talk about his people for about 1 hour. Then he has a session with the people in the plants in which he can make maybe about 30 minutes presentation, and then Q&A about 1 hour, just to get to know what is happening there and feel the people. And then he goes back and have another session with the manager. And he says on his way back, he's writing personal letters to the manager and to some of the staff to reinforce what the agreements have been. That is so, so important. He says execution requires a comprehensive understanding of a business, its people, and its environment. The leader is the only person in a position to achieve that understanding. And only the leader can make execution happen through his or her deep personal involvement in the substance and even the details of the execution. Now, you see, sometimes when he's talking to some CEOs about what their involvement should be, some of them say, no, I'm not a hands-on person. No, that is micromanaging. But it's not micromanaging. It's not micromanaging. You've got to be able to feel your business and know about the business. So it's not micromanaging. It says there's a difference between leading an organization and presiding over an organization. If you are leading an organization, there is active involvement. And then you use your knowledge of the business and your experience of the business to be able to, bring people out and ask questions and bring out the weaknesses that might be there that they might not have noticed, so that you can rally the people around to take care of all those weaknesses and get over it. So it is so important. It says if you are presiding over an organization, then you don't have a feel of the day-to-day realities of that business. You are not able to confront those that are responsible for poor performance. You are not able to probe and ask questions that will cause weaknesses to come to the fore and help the people to deal with it. It says if you are presiding over a business, they are doing 50% of your work, and you are not really conversant as a business leader. And it's so important. Even those that actually lead the organization, they don't even need to tell the people what to do. What they do is they ask questions. That questions will make them know, think about what they're supposed to do. And it's a sort of coaching. making them to think in ways that they had not thought before to overcome the challenges. And in that way, there is a better buy-in because the idea is actually coming from them. The leader is just probing. And so it's important to be able to lead an organization and not just presiding by it. Execution must be a core element of an organization's culture. The discipline of execution doesn't work unless people are schooled in it and practice it constantly. It doesn't work if only a few people in the system practice it. It has to be part of an organization's culture, driving the behavior of all leaders at all levels. And execution should begin with the senior leaders, but you can still practice it in your organization or group, even if you are not the senior leader. Now, this is very important. I mean, it drills down when it becomes part of your culture and the leaders are seen executing, and the others also will follow suit. But then if leaders are not executing, you can still do it in your own group. Because I remember clearly when I was, where I worked last before I retired, and I was, wanted to implement the e-learning platform, and I was very new, but that was one of the reasons why I was asked to set up the training academy. And people that were working with me, I mean, every day they knew what they were supposed to do. And I used to tell them, I said, see, you don't have to sit down here and be pretending as if you are working till 8 o'clock, because I myself, I'm going to leave at 5. The most important thing is that this is what I'm supposed to do today. Just make sure you do it. If you fail to do it, then you spend more time in the office because you've got to be able to do this. So, and then I follow through to see that they do what they are supposed to do. And there's for a project, there's a start date and there's a end date. I mean, we were able to go live at the end date. And the MD of the bank had to send a mail to everybody, congratulating the training academy that we are high on execution and all that and all that. So you can do it in your own group, even if the whole organization is not doing it. It's just a matter of practicing the principles of execution. Yeah, execution actually do make a difference. It makes a difference. A high proportion of those who rise to the top of a business organization have made their mark. Conceptualizers don't necessarily understand how to execute. They are interested in the how of getting things done. That's for somebody else to think about. Many don't realize what needs to be done to convert a vision. It could convert a vision into specific tasks. They don't follow through and get things done. Details bore them and do anticipate roadblocks. I mean, talking about the CEO that I talked about when I was opening Joe. I mean, what could Joe have done differently? I mean, some of the things that Joe should have done differently, according to Larry and Ram, is that, first of all, he must have ensured that everyone that is going to be responsible for the execution of that strategy, they are parts of the formulation of that strategy. Even to the key production line people, they must have been part of it. That way you have a more robust dialogue. Everybody will talk about the challenges they can see, and it will be sorted out. Then, secondly, you should have asked questions. The hows. I mean, anybody can make a presentation, and you can have the orative powers and make a good presentation. But then the CEO should ask about the hows. How is this going to be done? Great presentation, great insight and vision. How is it going to be done? Joe did not ask the hows. Thirdly, he should have set milestones, and there should have been accountability. Milestones after first quarter, we expect this, we're going to have a review, we're going to find out how far you have gone, you are accountable for this, and so you're going to have to answer to this after the first quarter. No milestone set. Fourthly, he should have also have contingency plans. Anything can happen along the way. The unexpected can happen. I mean, the external environment can change. Government can come up with different policies. I mean, there might be component shortage. I mean, there might be shift in markets. Anything, I mean, your competitors can come up with something new. Anything can happen, So, and also you can have shifting macroeconomics, of course. So you must have contingency plans. If this happens, what are we going to do? This is what we are going to do. So Joe should have done that, and it should have helped him to execute his strategy. So they don't know how to pick people for the organization who can execute, as their lack of engagement deprives them of the sound judgment about people that comes only through practice. In Joe's case, he was appointed, and execution was not part of this criteria that they used to appoint him. So of course, he had strength in other areas, but execution was not part of his strength. And eventually he was fired, and a management team that knew how to execute was used to replace him. So we go to part 2, which is talking about the building blocks of execution. Now we have 3 building blocks. These building blocks are so important in executing and carrying out the 3 core processes of execution, which is in the part 3. So we're going to look at these 3 building blocks that are important for anybody that wants to be able to execute. The building block 1 is the leader's 7 essential behaviors. 7 essential behaviors, how you should behave, the things you should know about the things you should do in order to be able to execute. What exactly does a leader who is in charge of execution do? How does he execute without micromanaging, getting caught up in the details of running the business? The 7 essential behaviors. 1, know your people and know your business. You should know your business. You should live your business. Your business should be part of you. You should know everything concerning that business, because as a leader, your direct reports, they'll be sending a lot of reports to you that have been filtered. It has been filtered based on their own perceptions, based on their own limitations, based on their own agendas, their biases. So you get a lot of all these reports and you think you know your business. No, you might not know your business from all those reports because they have been filtered. Even if you get reports from the other staff, they also are filtered based on their own perspectives. So it is important for you to know your business, know your people, go around your organization, ask questions from people, feel the people, get the first impression, and get fresh perspectives of your business. It's so, so, so important. And also, when you go around, there's this personal connection that you get with your staff, with your people, who makes you to be able to run the business better. So that is the way to behave. It's an essential behavior of somebody, not just your car, from car to the office. You've got to mix with your people and know your people and know your business. Secondly, insist on realism. I mean, realism is the heart of execution. It is the heart of execution. You have to insist on realism. There must be robust dialogue that will bring up the realities of your business. Because a lot of people in organizations, they try to cover up, to shade the reality. Sometimes because they want to avoid uncomfortable situations, they want to hide their mistakes, at least to give them enough time to correct the mistakes, or they want to really avoid confrontation, and so they cover and they shade realities. But you must insist on realism. You must make sure the realities are brought to the fore, or else you are not going to be able to execute. It is so, so important. And if you want to do that, you have to ensure that, that is a priority in your organization, realism. And if you want to make it a priority, it starts with you. You must be realistic about your business. And as you do that, to ensure that and all your meetings and dialogues, everybody is realistic. We are not afraid to say the truth. How do we stand? And when you do this, you have a realistic view of your business. And if you are comparing your business with competitors, you can compare it excellently well because you are faced with reality and you are dealing with realities. So you must insist on realism. Then set clear goals and priorities. When you want to set clear goals and priorities, it has to be few so that everybody can have a grasp of what the goals and the priorities are. Larry was talking about the fact that if a CEO says, I have 10 priorities, then that CEO doesn't know what he's saying because he doesn't even know the things that are important for him to do. So, and apart from the fact that you need to set few clear goals and priorities, make sure that you embrace simplicity. Those goals must be simple enough for your people to understand and run with. Then it says follow through. That's number 4, out of the 7 essential behaviors of a leader that wants to be able to execute. Follow through. Even if you have clear, simple goals, if people are not following through, it will achieve nothing. And people that don't execute is because they fail to follow through. They fail to follow through. They are poor in execution because they fail to follow through. So it's important for you to follow through. What are the expectations? Everybody knows what the expectations, and you don't just leave them that, okay, run with this, and then you leave them. And at the end of the year, why were you not able to do it? You follow through so that you're able to know, is this person doing what he's supposed to do? So that if you need to make some changes, you make the change before you get to the end of the financial year. Then reward the doers. Reward the doers. If you need specific results, you must be able to link the reward to that result so that everybody will know that for me to be able to get this reward, I must behave this way, I must get this result. It will help you to execute. It's so important. A lot of companies that are not able to execute, you find out that they don't measure, they don't reward, they don't promote in line with performance. They don't promote those that are getting things done. Those that know how to get things done, they don't promote them, they don't reward them, and then you find out there's no execution in that organization. But if everybody knows that this person is getting rewarded and promoted because he's getting things done, everybody will begin to learn how to execute and they begin to do it. So it's so important. They expand people's capabilities. The way you can expand people's capabilities is using the knowledge, the experience that you have acquired over the years, translating it, teaching people that are under you, that you just sit there as the MD and everybody's under you, but you're able to translate what you have learned, the knowledge you have acquired over the years. So it's actually like coaching, and it makes the difference between giving people orders and teaching them how to execute. And then lastly, in the 7 essential behaviors is you must know yourself. Know yourself. Strength of character is absolutely critical to be able to execute. Do you have the emotional fortitude to be honest with yourself, to be honest about the realities of your business, to be able to, approach, people that are not performing with their realities, approach people, with their assessments. Do you have the emotional fortitude to be able to do this? Can you stand and make some difficult, decisions? Do you know yourself? Because emotional fortitude is actually, it comes from self-discovery and self-mastery. What do you know about yourself? Because good leaders that are able to execute, they have the knowledge of their own personal strengths and weaknesses. They know where their strengths are when they are dealing with people. And so they build on their strengths, work on their weaknesses. You will gain respect as a leader when your followers see the inner strength that you have. Okay, so we go to the second building block, creating the framework for cultural change, creating the framework for cultural change. For these, you want to change the culture of your people. A lot of times when things go wrong, people are like, okay, maybe we have to do something about our strategy. And when the business is not doing well, the strategy, the structure. But some, actually look at the fact that maybe we have to change our culture. And Larry was relating it with the computer system. He says, the structure and the strategy of an organization is like the hardware of a computer system, while the beliefs and the behavior, which is the culture, is like the software. And the hardware cannot achieve anything without the software. So he's saying that the culture needs to look at your culture. If you need to make a cultural change, then go for it in order to be able to execute. Most efforts at cultural change fail because they are not linked to improving the business outcomes. The ideas and tools of cultural change are disconnected from strategic and operational realities. Now, to change people's behavior so that they produce results, they do the following. Tell the people clearly what results you are looking for. Then discuss how to get those results as a key, element of the coaching process. Then reward people. We have talked about that. Reward people for producing the results. If they come short, you provide additional coaching, withdraw rewards, give them other things, other jobs, or you let them go. It is so important for us to be able to do this, because if you can't do this, honestly, you might not be able to achieve much. It is so important. So you need to be able to do this. And for you to have this culture of execution, you must have robust dialogue as part of what's priority in your organization. Now, this quote says, the culture of a company is the behavior of its leaders. Leaders get the behavior they exhibit and tolerate. You change the culture of a company by changing the behavior of its leaders. You measure the change in culture by measuring the change in the personal behavior of its leaders and the performance of the business. That's by Larry and Ram. Now, they're saying that you cannot be a leader that does not exhibit that culture and expect that the organization will show that culture. He said it is very important for you as a leader to make sure that you exhibit that culture. And that culture, part of the things that are important in having an execution culture is having robust dialogue. Robust dialogue. Everybody must be able to talk and, talk honestly, talk realistically, bring the things to the fore, whatever is happening, bring it to the fore through openness, candor, being honest, just bring it to the fore. Talk about it, informality. You find out that a lot of our meetings are so formal, but formality, what it does is suppresses dialogue. But informality encourages dialogue. So if you make it so formal, people will not come up with things that you're supposed to learn and to know from them. So it's very, very important to imbibe. So I go to the building block 3, and it is time. The job no leader should delegate, having the right people in the right place. Quite often leaders don't pay enough attention to people that are being recruited because they are too busy thinking about how to make their companies bigger or more global than those of their competitors. What they are overlooking is that the quality of their people is the best competitive differentiator. There are some things you can't control as a leader. You can't control the economic environment, for example. You might not be able to control regulations, for example, but you can control the quality and the type of people that you have. And unfortunately, a lot of leaders don't even have enough time to that. And something that they can actually control. People say that people are our best assets, but how much time are you committing to the people? How much do you know about the quality of people that you have, particularly in the leadership career? Leaders may not know enough about the people they are appointing. They pick people with whom they are comfortable rather than others who have better skills for the job. They may not have the courage to discriminate between strong and weak performance and take the necessary actions. That is so important because sometimes leaders fail to take action, when they're supposed to take action. All of this reflects an absolutely fundamental shortcoming. The leaders aren't personally committed to the people process and deeply engage in it. I wish I can read from, 115, but it's talking about, A leader, that was, they employed him, he had all the qualification, and they made him one of the divisional heads, and he did not perform, but the leader, the CEO, was still giving him time that, okay, he will still perform, he's still new. By the end of the day, the board had to tell him that this guy has failed to perform, you have to dump him. And by that time, the business suffered irreparable loss. It was really bad. So you must be able to take some strong decisions. You'll be able to do that no matter how difficult or painful it is. The building block 3 is the job no leader should delegate, having the right people in the right place. What kind of people are you looking for? Well, somebody's talking about this. What kind of people are you looking for? Without knocking education or looking for dumb people. If you have to choose between someone with a staggering IQ and an elite education who's gliding along, and someone with a lower IQ but who is absolutely determined to succeed, you'll always do better with a second person. I mean, what kind of people are you looking for? Those that energize people. I mean, you can interview somebody and the person has great potential, great educational background, but this person is like, is docile, he's reserved. I mean, you really don't need that type of person to execute, because he's going to hire people like himself. You need somebody with energy who comes in the morning, he's upbeat, big smile on his face, there's momentum, there's energy, everybody is ready to get into the work of the day. He energizes the people and he employs people like him. So you need people that can energize others, and it brings about execution. Then you need people that are decisive on tough issues. There are tough issues, tough decisions to be taken. Is reluctant in sacking that person because he was the one that promoted that person to a position and is no longer performing. I mean, you need to be able to get people that are decisive on top action. Get things done. You need to get people that get things done through others. There are some leaders that they can't get things done through managers. They suppress the initiative and the creativity of those that are working with them. And there are some of them that they just abandon their people. They give them abstract what to do, no support, no explanation, nothing, no follow-up, no milestone, and they just leave them, And some of them is because they are too temperamental to be able to work with people. So you need people that can get things done. These people that don't get things done, they waste your time, they reduce the capability of the organization because they don't make the best use of the talent of their people, and they are the people that, they waste the time of everybody in the organization and even their own time too. And there are people that make their staff to work extra hours. They push their staff into unhealthy work habits. They work 7 days of the week. Even public holidays, they still work. And then you need to be able to follow through. So we're talking about follow through. Follow through is making sure that people do what they're supposed to do according to timetable. Now, these 3 building blocks that we have looked at, the 7 behaviors of the leader can execute, having it as part of your culture, and the job that leaders should not delegate, they are the foundation for the 3 core processes of execution. So if you have leaders with the right behavior, a culture that rewards execution, and a consistent system for getting the right people in the right jobs, the foundation is in place for operating and managing each of the core processes effectively. So we go to the core processes right now. The people process, making the link with, the 3 core processes are the people process, the strategy process, and the operations process. Now the people process, making the link with strategy process and operations process is important. None of them should be in silo. So the people process is more important than either the strategy or operations process. And if it is not gotten right, you will never fulfill potential of your business. A robust people process does 3 things. It evaluates individuals accurately and in-depth. It provides a framework for identifying and developing the leadership talents at all levels. It fills the leadership pipeline. That's the basis of a strong succession plan. Now, this is so important. Sometimes putting the right person in the right job might be an excellent performer with a person who is better. There's an excellent performer, but based on the strategy, you just have to replace this person to perform at that level. So that's because of time. I think I need to rush organizations, and it's based on some building blocks. I won't have time to extend building blocks. I get it in the book. Linkage to the strategic plan and its near, medium, and long-term developing the leadership action and operations of HR. And this code says, I want bigger margins than anybody else. And to accomplish this, we have to have great people and train them better and faster than everybody else. We need to have educational programs that are focused on key business issues and problems, the things that matter. HR's role is to help me solve this problem. That is Larry speaking to the SVP, Senior Vice President of HR at Honeywell. Strategy process, making the link with people and operations. You have to be able to link that strategy with the people. And this is talking about getting the right people, the right number of people, to be able to execute the strategy. A strong strategic plan must address the following questions. And then there's this whole one, questions to raise at the strategy review. And then the last one, the core process, is the operations process, making the link with strategy and people. You have to be able to make this link. You know, the ideal is what is found in an organization that executes a robust operating process centered on an operating plan that links strategy and people to results. Now, all these things, you'll be able to do it easily if you have those building blocks, those 3 building blocks. They are so important. If you are able to fulfill those 3 building blocks, you'll be able to carry out these 3 core processes: the people process, the operations process, and strategy process. You'll be able to do it, and you'll be able to link them together, because if any one of them is standing in silo, you're not able to execute. It's important for you to be able to do this. The operations process is, usually people just look at budgets, and the 3 major flaws that are seen in budgeting operations process is that the process doesn't provide for robust dialogue on the plan's assumptions. The budget is built around the results that top management wants, but it doesn't discuss or specify the action programs that will make those outcomes a reality. The process doesn't provide coaching opportunities for people to learn the totality of the business or develop the social architecture of working together in common cause. And lastly, there's the letter to a new leader, as like the last chapter. If you want that, get the book and read that letter to a new leader. Thank you very much.